Well, good morning and happy Sabbath, Lakeside Church. I did have some one-liners prepared, but I think Sunny took all of them this morning, so I won't have any more one-liners for you. Thank you, Marco. Thank you to our crew who have led us in worship this morning. You guys have done an awesome job. And this morning, I want to share into our theme of shine. And so my message this morning is called Shine Bright. Can you guys all say that? Shine bright. Right, we are called to shine bright. And one of the things that blows my mind is that there are creatures in this world that glow, and they shine really brightly. See, check this out. This is a millipede that primarily lives in California. During the day, it stays hidden, but at night, it comes out to eat and glows the entire time, just like this. It is a bioluminescent millipede. It can produce a toxic cyanide from tiny pores in its body, and the glowing lets its predators know that it's dangerous. But I think it looks pretty cool. Or if anyone's been to the North New South Wales Big Camp, if you go out to the lake that is nearby at nighttime and you splash the water, you can see that it glows and it looks wonderful because of these bioluminescent creatures that are in it. And it's absolutely stunning and beautiful that there are these creatures that glow. There are these creatures that glow and shine bright. And my thought for today is, God designed us to glow as well. God has called us to shine bright for Him. And so where I'm going to be looking today, if you have a Bible with you, is the book of Philippians. And if you don't, that's okay, because I will have the slides on the screen. Now, the book of Philippians. This was written during a time of suffering, far worse than anything we would have ever experienced. Christians were being persecuted. The faith was illegal. They were being cut off from their families, excluded from business and work opportunities, wondering how they might pay their next meal, hunted down, imprisoned, and put to death. But despite all the danger, all the uncertainty, all the lack, fear, these everyday people struggling to get by in a difficult world were able to have a profound impact. And we can look to their example 2,000 years later. In today's message, Paul challenges us, and he challenged them to shine bright for God, and he's left us with some practical advice. So if you have your Bible, we will be in Philippians chapter 2. Starting from verse 12, it goes like this. Dear friends, you have always followed my instructions when I was with you, and now that I am away, it is even more important. Work hard to show the results of your salvation, obeying God with deep reverence and fear. So what's Paul saying? He said, hey, you guys are doing a great job. Keep going. And so he's got this encouragement because he recognizes that this church in Philippi, they are in the right direction, but they've not arrived yet. They need to keep going. Keep doing what they've been doing in the past. And we need to keep going as Christians as well. We can't think, oh, I'm good enough. I'm Christian enough. People like me. No, we need to keep displaying the results of what it looks like to be a Christian. And this last sentence is really interesting depending on what translation you might have. But it says, work hard to show the results of your salvation, obeying God with deep reverence and fear. Some translations, maybe yours, says, work out your salvation, which has caused some confusion to some. Isn't Paul, the author of this letter, a loud voice for how we don't earn our salvation? That it's a gift from God? Is he hinting that we do this in this passage, that we work for our salvation? And I like this translation here, the NLT, because in this translation it says, work hard to show the results of your salvation. Work hard to show the results of your salvation. Paul was saying if you are a Christian, then your life should shine like Christ. It is not enough just to say the words. It is not just enough to say the words. A transformed heart must result in transformed actions. Now, I want to ask a question here. Is anyone here, I like the way my friend David Latola puts it, are you a friend of Noah or a friend of Daniel with how you consume either meat or vegetables? Who's vegetarian here? Who's vegetarians? Vegans? Anyone vegan out here? I tried being vegan. Okay, I tried being vegan. I think this was a COVID experiment for me. I was like, okay, I'm going to do it. I'm just going to do it. And I started off great. I got a whole weekend of just being full vegan. I loved it. But then I found it got harder. And I told like heaps of people, like I'm trying, because during COVID, you're just staying in touch with people. Like, yes, I'm being vegan. I'm doing it. And I had chickens at the time, and I'm like, well, they're my chickens. I'm not buying the eggs. I'm just eating what my chickens are giving me. And so I started having eggs once a week. And then more than once a week. But, all my other meals were vegan. And then, I was having those alternative milks in my coffee, almond, oat. I just couldn't find anything I liked. And so I'm like, oh, well, I'll go back to dairy. So now I had eggs and now I had dairy. But I was still telling people, you know what? I'm vegan. I'm doing it. And, I cooked my meals and I was loving my vegan food. And then, Mum started offering meals as well. And these meals weren't vegan. And they tasted really nice. But I still told people I was vegan. And, I only had these meals once a week. But, the more it went on and the longer it went, I had more of these meals. And, I started to introduce meat back into my diet. But I was still telling people, you know what? Yeah, I'm doing that vegan thing. But are my actions, what are they showing? Are my actions showing that I'm vegan? No. I wasn't actually a vegan based on my actions. Yeah, I could say all the words and say that I was doing it, but my actions showed otherwise. And Paul's saying the same thing in this passage. If God is in your life, then my life should reflect it. My actions should reflect it. And there's something else that's going on in this passage as well. The Greek here would have been clear to the Christians receiving this message. Where it says your, we tend to look at this with our individualistic mindset, that it's applying to me. But when you read it in the Greek, it's plural. And I love the way the Bible Project puts it. When you read your in the New Testament, a better way to say it is y'all, because it's referring to all of us as a church. This letter was not to individuals, but to a church. And so the church is meant to be reflecting all of this. We are doing this together. Yes, as individuals, we need to shine bright for God. But as a church, as a whole, we also need to shine bright for God too. We should be known in our school, in our communities, in our neighborhood, in our workplaces, in our sports team, as people who shine bright. Obeying God with deep reverence and fear. This phrase tells us just how important this issue was in Paul's mind. Shining for God in this dark world is not something we should do casually or lightly. If we understand that God who saved his people is an awesome God, then we need to display that as we continue. For God is working in you, giving you the desire and the power to do what pleases him. It's not in our own power that we shine brightly for God, but it's God working in and through us, and it comes out. I want to share just a really short snippet. Does anyone know what show this is from? Oh, it's not Star Wars. It's not Star Wars. It is. It's a TV show called Battlestar Galactica. Should have known. But why do I talk about this show? Because in an interview, one of the actors of the star, her name was Trisha Helfer, and she shared about an episode that they did, and it was considered one of their best. And in this episode, it featured a famous guest star. And Trisha explained that this award-winning guest star performance was so incredible that it brought out the best from everyone else. The presence of a great actor brought out even better performance from everyone else. And that's the point here, because God does the work, and his presence brings out the light in all of us. Is our life shining? Is our church community shining? Paul continues, do everything without complaining and arguing. Ooh. Do everything without complaining and arguing. That is how we shine for God. You know, I'm connected to a lot of you on social media. And, you know, I've collected a random sampling of some of your posts. Just kidding. Did you get nervous? Why? Why does it matter what's on your screen? Coming back to that verse. Do everything without complaining and arguing so that no one can criticize you. Live clean, innocent lives as children of God, shining like bright lights in a world full of crooked and perverse people. I find this passage, especially these verses here, fascinating. Of all the things to single out, Paul goes after complaining and arguing. Complaining and arguing. If you go around to a lot of churches, you find that they're full of complaining and arguing. We like to think it's the big things that shine for God. The service project, the mission trip, the generous gift, doing all these wonderful big things. And we sort of forget the impact that complaining and arguing have. Complaining and arguing, they're so easy to justify or minimize, but they impact so much. I know of many churches that have split over arguments, over complaints. It's not such a little thing. It's a pretty big thing. Our everyday actions, our everyday choice of words do far more to show who we belong to than the occasional grand gestures. What does our life look like? You know, I've seen many, knee-jerk reactions, both those in church and outside of church. You just have to look at social media and see how people react to different things. Do everything without complaining and arguing. When people look at our life and our interactions with our family, our friend, our church family, what are they going to see? Are we pointing people to Christ? Are we shining bright for him, or are they seeing other things? As a church, as individuals, what are we known for? Are we known for being generous and kind, or are we known for our arguing and our complaining? I love what Andy Stanley says here. He says he wants to be known for what he's for, not what he is against. He wants to be known what he's for, not what he's against. And I think so often people can look at the church and they label the church for what they're against. They're against this, they're against that. This is what they stand for. But what if they know what we're for? We're known for being generous. We're known for being kind. We're known for being compassionate and helping those in need. We're known for pointing people to Christ. We're known for being people who shine bright. Over and over, Jesus' reputation showed he was for the marginalized, those who were suffering, the poor, the abused, the ones without a voice. Who would your friends, co-workers, family say that you are for? Jesus left the 99 to save the one. Jesus chose the Samaritan. Jesus chose the leper. Even amongst the disciples, Jesus had the one whom he loved. Over and over, the religious people criticized Jesus for his love of the marginalized. Do you lash out at those who don't take the same stance as you? Do you make your points with language that honors God? We are so frustrated when the world paints Christians with a broad brush, stereotyping all of us by the horrific actions and words of a few who misrepresent the faith. But we do the same thing when we single out the actions of a few as a reason to disregard the message of the rest. I'm not saying to be silent, But when we use our voices without complaining and arguing, we stand out like a radiant light. Our gentle spirit declares, Christ is worth it. Christ is better. That gets people's attention. I want to be known for being light, not indistinguishable from the crooked and persevere. It takes work. Hold firmly to the word of life then. On the day of Christ's return, I'll be profound that I did not run the race in vain and that my work was not useless. But I'll rejoice even if I lose my life, pouring it out like a liquid offering to God, just like your faithful service is an offering to God. And I want all of you to share that joy. Yes, you should rejoice, and I will share your joy. I think many of us would say that we are willing to lose our lives for God. But He's calling us to more than just being willing to be a martyr. God is calling us to die to our pride, to our selfish desire, to our need for the final word. Someday, when all of this is over and we stand with Christ, will you stand there with Him and be able to look back at your life with pride? Look at how I've been the light for you, Jesus. Or will it be with discomfort? Shame at the wasted opportunities, the energy spent on complaining, arguing, instead of building the kingdom. God is calling us to sacrifice, and that is where we find the joy. So to reflect on this small passage that we find in the book of Philippians, Paul makes 3 really key points. God's work and our work are connected. Avoid complaining and arguing, and shining are connected. And sacrifice and rejoicing are connected. I want to leave you with something from the first chapter in Philippians, where he says that we are to be citizens of heaven. When Paul says in his letter to the Philippians that we are citizens of heaven, most Christians interpret that to mean we should look forward to leaving earth and going to heaven, which is our true home. But this is not what the passage meant to first century readers. The city of Philippi was in Greece, and it was a Roman colony. And many there had the privilege of Roman citizenship. The citizens of the colony were not supposed to aspire to go back to Rome, but their job was to secure a conquered country by permeating the local culture with Roman culture. So by telling the Christians that they are citizens of heaven, Paul was telling them to permeate the world with a heavenly culture. And so that is our job. Wherever we find ourselves, in our school, in our community, to take the culture of heaven and display it there, to shine brightly for Jesus, to connect our work with His work, to avoid complaining and arguing, and to rejoice no matter the moment we find ourselves in. So I want to challenge you to rise to this. Let's be known as individuals. Let's be known as a church that shines like a bright light wherever we are. God is working on each of us. Let our prayer that we would not get in the way of the work God wants to do in our life. There are many ways in which we shine for Jesus. Let us have the humility to recognize the areas we still need to grow in. Let me close with just a short prayer. Lord, I just want to pray over each and everyone here, that we as individuals and that we as a community can be people that shine brightly for you. Work in and through us. Help us to not argue, to not complain, to not be bitter, but to be people who shine brightly for you no matter where we find ourselves. Work in and through us. In your name I pray. Amen.